She shot 100% from the field. She finished plus 24. She orchestrated a 55-point blowout. And when the game ended, they didn't even put her at the podium. That is not an accident. That is a pattern. And today we are going to follow that pattern all the way back to where it starts, inside the coaching staff's own mouth. Every cover-up eventually produces a witness. And in this case, the witness is the interim head coach himself. After Team USA crushed New Zealand 101-46, Nate Tibbetts stood at the podium and said, "And I need you to actually hear this, it's not always easy for players to get into a rhythm when the coaches are messing with the lineups." Pause. This is not a reporter saying it. This is not an analyst saying it. This is the head coach of the United States national team using the word messing to describe how he is managing the most watched, most scrutinized, most important women's basketball roster on the planet. Messing with the lineups. Weeks before major international competition. With Caitlin Clark, the most impactful offensive player in the modern women's game, sitting inside that experiment like a Ferrari they keep parking behind a school bus. He did not mean to confess, but he did. And we are going to spend the next several minutes making sure everyone understands exactly what he confessed to. Here is the concept I want you to lock in today: the invisible tax. Every single time a coaching staff builds a lineup that is not optimized around Caitlin Clark's strengths, they pay a tax. The team pays it. The offense pays it. And the scoreboard, eventually, collects it. Here is what that tax looked like against New Zealand. The coaching staff decided to start Clark alongside Chelsea Gray. Now, let me be precise here. Chelsea Gray is not the problem.
Then that's what you want, right? You want that consistency from group to group. The first group didn't have it, they didn't set the tone, but the second group came out and did a really good job.
Chelsea Gray is a brilliant, cerebral half-court operator. She reads defenses. She controls tempo. She is a genuine legend of the sport. But Caitlin Clark is a transition weapon. She sees the outlet the moment the ball hits the rim. She wants to be at half court in 3 seconds, not 8. Her entire offensive model is built on making defenses run, on punishing any team that is not fully set and fully ready. When you start them together, you do not get the best of both. You get a contradiction. Clark pushes. Gray organizes. Clark accelerates. Gray decelerates. The defense, which should be in full panic mode, is instead allowed to casually walk back, set up, and breathe. That is the tax. That is 7 minutes of a compromised, hesitant, artificially slowed offense, paid entirely because the coaching staff is more afraid of veteran politics than winning basketball. And here is the part that should make every fan furious. They knew. Tibbetts said so himself. They were testing lineups. They were seeing what works. Against New Zealand, a team they were going to beat no matter what, the cost of that experiment was a clunky first quarter and a slow start. Against Spain, that same tax will be collected with interest. Now let's go to the actual data, because this is where the mainstream take completely falls apart. After the slow first quarter, the media narrative machine fired up immediately. The take was obvious, predictable, and completely wrong. Caitlin Clark struggled in her first start. The bench unit bailed Team USA out. This proves she isn't ready to be the focal point. Here are the actual numbers. Caitlin Clark, 23 minutes played. 14 points. 6 assists. 4 for 4 on 2-point attempts. Shooting percentage inside the arc, 100%. Plus minus, plus 24. Let's break each of those down individually because every single one of them destroys the narrative. 14 points and 6 assists in 23 minutes inside a system that was actively working against her tempo. Not in a free-flowing offense built around her strengths. In a constrained half-court slow-it-down system designed to keep veterans comfortable. She still put up those numbers. 4 for 4 on 2-point attempts. Here is why this is the most underrated stat in the entire box score. New Zealand's entire defensive game plan was to run her off the three-point line. Take away the logo shot. Force her left. Force her into traffic. Make her uncomfortable. And what did she do? She adapted in real time. She didn't panic. She didn't force the three. She snaked into the paint, used footwork that looked like she had been practicing that exact counter for months, and knocked down floaters and mid-range jumpers like they were layups. That is not just talent. That is basketball IQ at a level most professionals never reach. And the plus, 24. In the minutes Caitlin Clark shared the floor, the United States outscored New Zealand by 24 points. That is your true verdict. Forget the first quarter narrative. Forget the coaching staff spin. The only number that measures real impact, the number that cannot be manipulated by lineup politics or media framing, says that when Caitlin Clark plays, this team wins, dominates, runs away. Now let's talk about the bench unit, because the media got this completely backwards too. Rickea Jackson drops 18 points. Angel Reese takes over the glass. The second unit looks unstoppable. And the take was, see, this team has depth beyond Clark. Wrong framing. Completely wrong. Why did the bench unit explode? Because the starting unit, with Caitlin Clark dragging 2 defenders on every single possession for 7 straight minutes, had already physically and mentally exhausted the New Zealand defense. Every screen Clark navigated cost New Zealand a rotation. Every threat in transition kept their guards on a hair trigger. By the time the bench checked in, that defense was already broken. Jackson and Reese didn't create the opportunity. Clark's gravitational pull created it. The bench unit just had the privilege of walking
This tournament and just talking to Kara and our coaching staff is it's not always easy for players to get into a rhythm when the coaches are messing with the lineups, and part of that is just seeing
through a door that the starting unit kicked open. The coaching staff knows this. The tape shows this. And they still kept her away from the podium. Let's be very direct here, because this goes beyond basketball strategy. 55-point margin of victory. Perfect shooting percentage inside the arc. Highest plus-minus on the roster. And Caitlin Clark is not invited to the post-game podium. Someone on that broadcast said it plainly, how come Caitlin Clark's not at the podium yet? She should have got player of the game. It's some funny stuff going on with these people. Some funny stuff. That is the polite way to say it. The accurate way to say it is this. There is a coordinated, deliberate effort to control the story around Caitlin Clark, and it is being executed from the top down. They cannot suppress her on the floor. The plus, 24, makes sure of that. They cannot hide her stats. The box score makes sure of that. So they control what they can still control. The podium, the narrative, the framing of which players get credit and which players get quietly redirected back to the locker room. It is the most transparent, most futile power move in modern sports media. Because the people in the arenas know. The 18 million viewers watching from home know. The international point guards who have to guard her, and who carry that terror in their eyes from the opening tip, they know most of all. You cannot hide the sun. Not with a podium. Not with a press conference. Not with a lineup designed to slow her down.
It was a dominant performance. I mean, I feel like, how come Caitlin Clark not at the podium yet? Like, she should have got player of the game or something. Even the first game that she went off in, she didn't get invited to the podium.
Here is where the fun ends and the real stakes begin. Spain is not New Zealand. This needs to be said clearly and without softening. Spain is disciplined, physical, and surgically precise on defense. They study film. They exploit hesitation. They punish disjointed offenses not with athleticism but with intelligence. And there is nothing more dangerous in international basketball than a smart team facing a confused one. If the coaching staff walks into that game still messing with lineups, still choosing veteran politics over optimal spacing, Spain will not let a clunky first quarter slide. They will attack it. They will score off it. They will make the United States pay the invisible tax in front of the entire world. The window to get this right is closing fast. The solution is not complicated. It has never been complicated. Stop building the lineup around the hierarchy and start building it around the geometry. Surround Caitlin Clark with shooters who can space the floor. Put runners beside her who can leak out in transition. Let her dictate pace from the first possession. Stop asking a generation-defining talent to slow herself down so that the system feels comfortable for everyone else. The data has already delivered its verdict. Plus, 24. 100% shooting. 6 assists. 55-point blowout. That is not a player who needs to be managed. That is a player who needs to be unleashed. The coaching staff can keep experimenting. They can keep protecting the hierarchy. They can keep filling the podium with everyone except the person who earned it most. But every game that passes is another data point. Every box score is another page in a file that history is quietly building. And when this is all over, when the final tournament results are in and everyone is doing the post-mortem, there is going to be one question that nobody will be able to answer cleanly. What would the record have looked like if they had just built the system around her from the start? We already know the answer. The plus 24 knows. The 100% field goal percentage knows. The 55-point margin of victory knows. Stop making her pay for your mistakes. Build the team around Caitlin Clark. Or watch Spain make you wish you had. Comment below, will Tibbetts finally get the lineup right against Spain, or are we watching the same experiment play out on a bigger stage? Subscribe if you want the analysis that actually follows the numbers.